Hey, come see us in Ashland, Virginia, Athens, Georgia, Rutherford, New Jersey at the Icarus Festival, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Right now, I want to introduce our guest. Brianne Dressen is an educator. She qualified to be a participant in the clinical trial for the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine. In November 2020, she got her one and only shot, which changed her life forever. She experienced severe paresthesia, blurred and double vision, extreme sound, light, touch, and teeth sensitivity. She was confined to her bedroom in isolation with her symptoms for months, removed from her family. She's also experienced tinnitus, brain fog. Some people say tinnitus, but that's not how you say it. I don't care what. It's just like Kiev. It's Kiev, not Kiev. So
you don't say ammons.
You get tonsillitis, not tonsillitis.
Diabetes?
Yes. So she also experienced tinnitus, brain fog, memory loss, limb weakness, motor dysfunction of her legs, and loss of her bladder control. When her legs failed her, she was, get this, when her legs failed her, the doctors diagnosed her with anxiety due to the COVID vaccine.
Maybe
anxiety.
You need more boosters. Did you try getting another booster?
She should get another. And when she was sent home with just an in-home therapist, as her condition evolved, she experienced tachycardia, and blood pressure fluctuations. I had that. I had temperature dysregulation. I had that, and internal electric shocks or internal vibrations. Well, she's also co-founder of the React 19, which is a science-based nonprofit offering financial, physical, and emotional support for those suffering from long-term COVID-19 vaccine adverse events. Please welcome to the show, Brianne Dressen. Hey, Brianne.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So I just want to show people that you went from this, a happy, healthy educator and mom, a rock, look at that, mountain climber. Oh my God, I can't believe people do that.
Jeez.
And then you ended up like this just after one shot.
Yeah. Yep. That's all it took was one.
And so tell me about your experience, what happened, and what made you decide to be a part of the, you volunteered for that, right? But they also said they would take care of you if something happened. So tell me the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, you obviously were able to describe my symptoms, the laundry list of symptoms that I actually still deal with most of those to this day, which is unfortunate. But so like you said, I was a preschool teacher, very into the outdoors. I really was one of those people that wanted to make the most of life. And I wanted to instill that in my kids too. So I taught them how to rock climb. I taught them how to ski. I taught them, how to camp and catch critters in the outdoors. And all that came to a screeching halt when COVID hit, obviously. But for us, everything changed because of the COVID vaccine. So when COVID hit, I wanted to show my kids we still can make the most of life. We still can be part of our community and make the most of any situation. I want to teach them that cliche word, resilience, but I really did. They were 6 and 8 at the time, right? So it was a good teaching moment for them. And I wanted to be part of the solution to get us all out of the pandemic. So it was a no-brainer to me to step up and get my shot. I had never had any problem with any previous vaccine. So I didn't think twice when, the call came to step up and help out our country. So
you did. And then after one shot, you got severely vaccine injured. And of course, the FDA and the CDC tell us that vaccine adverse events are rare. And I guess you just have to look up what the definition of rare is and then scratch your head. But because I know
medium rare.
Medium rare. In 1976, with the swine flu, 1 in 100,000 adverse events per vaccine, and they pulled it. In 1999, with the rotavirus, it was 1 to 2 adverse events for 10,000, and they pulled it. With these new vaccines for COVID, it's 1 in 800, and they're still recommending it.
It was an emergency, Jimmy.
But that's
they did
rare.
Their best.
It's rare. So when this happened, did they gaslight you about it? Because it seemed like, from what I read, that they gaslit you about it, saying that your symptoms were from anxiety. Did that really? That I can't. That's hard to believe they said that.
Yeah. So I was actually in the hospital. My legs were noodles, and I was incontinent and was not able to keep any food down. Could see every rib in my body. And they drugged me up with a whole bunch of drugs, thinking it was a silent migraine. After 3 days, the drugs didn't do anything because it wasn't a migraine. And so the specialist came in, sat down with me and my husband and said, COVID's a really hard time. And we think that you just kind of got stressed out and you went out and got this vaccine and just had a mental breakdown. So I couldn't move very well. And it took everything for my husband to not jump out of the seat. But at that point, it was very, very clear that we were not going to be getting help from the medical professionals, the best in the state here, actually. So I was sent home with intensive in-home physical and occupational therapy. And yeah, that's, it's true. They said it point blank to my face. So.
And so so you had to, I'm sure you had to sign a paper to be a part of the experiment, right? The trial group. And did the pharmaceutical company not promise to take care of you in case something like this happened?
That's actually why I decided to go through with it, to be totally honest with you, was because of those specific lines that said if something were to go wrong, they would be there to help medically and financially. And as soon as I got injured, the drug company was gone. I still, it's been 3.5 years, I still have yet to talk to an actual person at AstraZeneca. So that's a little different than what they committed to do in their contract.
And so now you filed a lawsuit. Now I thought they had immunity from lawsuits against this. Is there a loophole you found?
There is a loophole that my incredible lawyers have found, yes. So Michael Connett, who actually, when I found out I was going to be able to come onto your show, he called me and freaked out. So he loves you.
Oh, okay. Tell me his name and his law firm.
Michael Connett, and he works for Aaron Siri, so I can.
Okay.
So
okay.
He's a big time litigator. He's gone after pharma many times. I really couldn't have gotten anybody better on this case.
Fantastic.
So they went through the law, he and Aaron Siri and the team there, and the PrEP Act is incredibly protective. I'm sure you have discussed this before with your listeners, but it's impenetrable protection. And it's something that I think everybody needs to understand, that if you have a problem with a vaccine, a COVID vaccine, you are on your own, and the federal government is not going to come and help you, period. And the reason is because the PrEP Act has provided layers of protections. Not only the drug companies are protected, your doctor who gave you the shot is protected. The hospital that you're laid up in after your reaction is protected. And even health officials, the government officials who commit willful misconduct even are protected by the PrEP Act. So obviously, it's been a really frustrating experience through React 19 to try to help people find accountability, right, for their injuries, because we have 36,000 people throughout the U.S. that are injured.
That's all? That's so...
registered in our membership. And which is not too bad. I mean, because we're censored left and right.
Right.
So the fact that there's 36,000 of us together, it's still a pretty modest number.
Right. Yes.
So Aaron Siri and Michael Connett come along and they find out that I have a contract that's signed, and they are very confident that this will hold up to the PrEP Act when challenged in court. And it's because they signed and committed to very specific things to provide assistance if there was a problem. And they did absolutely none of what they were committed to do.
And meaning they didn't take care of you medically, they didn't take care of you financially. And in fact, not only did not take care of you, they completely ignored you and abandoned you.
Correct. And we gave them ample opportunities. I mean, we're 3.5 years into this, and yeah. So I didn't have a choice at this point. Well, I guess I could have. I mean, I could have roll over and die, but I'd much rather, see this through to the end.
And so now the big pharma funded media is not, which is every newspaper, magazine, and TV show, TV news show, every one of them is funded by big pharma. So that's why you have to go to places like this, correct, to get your story out. Has anybody reached out to you? Did Rachel Maddow or Chris Hayes or Jake Tapper or Anderson Cooper? I mean, they're really good people. Did Oprah try to contact you to talk about this? Did anybody try to talk to you about this?
They don't want to have me impact their stock prices. That they're all invested in this.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
we did have, a pretty good blip in Europe on this. So it was everywhere in the UK the last 48 hours.
The UK is a little different because they're not allowed to advertise. Big pharma there's only 2 countries in the whole world where they can advertise. And guess which one of them is? The United States. So they built, thanks to Bill Clinton, no friend of the working man or anybody except big corporations. He signed that law that made it legal for big pharma to directly advertise to people, which is the craziest thing in the world. It's this country and New Zealand. And if you look at the 2 most places that had the worst COVID policy and most draconian and turned their backs the hardest on the vaccine injured, it would be New Zealand and the United States. So you're saying you got some media coverage in Europe, did you?
Yeah, and we had a couple spots, the Miami Herald, Bloomberg Law here in the United States. They were the ones that actually debuted the story. So there's a little bit, of course, Anderson Cooper, give us a call.
So now, I did see you on with Chris Cuomo, right? Now, Chris Cuomo is also originally reported he was vaccine injured. He's reported that he's taking ivermectin to treat his vaccine injury. What are they? Can you share with us some of the treatments that you've received?
Yeah, it's a long list. After my anxiety diagnosis, my husband, he's a scientist, he started reaching out to scientists all over the globe, trying to figure out what was wrong with his wife, right? And surprise, surprise, the National Institutes of Health reached out after he hit them up in January of 2021. So if you think about where you were in January 2021, unless you were an emergency or a healthcare professional, you still had yet to get your shot. So the NIH was notified of severe side effects to the COVID vaccines in January 2021. And as such, they flew me out to the NIH along with 24 other vaccine injured from Pfizer, Moderna, J&J. And there we were all provided top of the line testing, evaluation, and treatment. And so I came home with a diagnosis of post-vaccine neuropathy from the lead research institution in the country, along with a very expensive and hard to get therapy called IVIG. And essentially what that is 1,000 to 10,000 people's immune cells in a bag, and they infuse it into your veins. So it costs $189,000 a year. I have to get it every other week for the rest of my life. So that's just one medication I'm on.
So that's being paid for by the NIH?
No, they did the initial, loading dose, and then I needed to come home. And of course, once the NIH said I had a vaccine reaction, then my doctors took me seriously. What a coincidence.
So do you go to the same doctors who didn't take you seriously? Do you still see those same doctors?
No.
Okay.
No. And I've heard horror stories from several others that are vaccine injured that had to go through them as well.
Yes.
So we, just like everybody else that you talk to, your friends and colleagues that have been injured, it took me a long time to find that one independent thinking doctor that would be willing to work with me and experiment and figure out how to bring me some measure of relief.
And so I was. Can you say that doctor's name, or does that doctor want to remain anonymous?
They're just like all the others. We've got them. We do have access to this doctor for the people that are listening who need help finding a competent doctor. The organization that I helped run, that I helped co-found, is react19.org. We have a national network of providers. It's essentially an underground network. And if you contact us, we can connect you with these compassionate providers one-on-one.
I was lucky. I tweeted out about my vaccine injury, and first of all, a lot of people hated me for doing that. I lost a lot of friends. People think I'm
you gotta have an underground network for this.
You gotta have to underground.
Is that how perverse of a place we live?
Yes,
dude. I can tell you. Can I tell you how bad this is? Like, for real? Okay. So through our advocacy organization, there was an 8-year-old girl that came through, totally healthy before, ended up in a wheelchair and diapers, and was crying so bad because she couldn't let anybody touch her. I know exactly what she felt like, because the electrical pain is a nightmare. Can't imagine an 8-year-old child having that. Johns Hopkins committed her. They put her in the psych ward for 3 weeks. Her mom found us at React 19, and she broke her child out of Johns Hopkins psych ward, took her home, and through our advocacy network, we were able to bring her to a doctor that was able to get her IVIG. Total underground network, by the way. And under the guise of darkness, we were able to get her medication that she needed. And she walked into school in the fall of 2022 as if nothing had happened to her.
Wow, that's a great story.
And we took her to Washington, D.C., and we put her in front of Peter Marks, head of biologics at the FDA, and she told her story. And after she told her story, I followed up with, if it were up to the federal government, this 8-year-old girl would still be in a wheelchair and diapers. But because she found some random people on the internet that happen to have the secrets of the NIH, she was able to walk into school fine, right? So Peter Marks's response was, we don't have any secrets here.
Well, that's amazing that your school can like help you fully transition genders behind your parents' back, but you have to go underground if you had a side effect from the safe effect of boosters that help slow the spread.
So I was lucky because my primary care physician, when I tweeted about it, a doctor who follows me on Twitter was running a research project to try to figure out how to treat people who were vaccine injured. He contacted me, Dr. Yoganda, and he worked together with my primary care physician, who was already treating 5 people that were vaccine injured. And she said 3 of them were nurses and 2 of them were doctors, and none of them will talk about it, because if they talk about it, it means career suicide. And so I can't believe that that's the way it is. But of course, it's all about money, and money runs everything in the United States. And so I was very lucky that my primary care physician was on board with me, and she was willing to work with Dr. Yoganda. And now I'm under the care of Dr. Pierre Corey, who was a pioneer in treating people who had COVID and vaccine injured. So so do you think you have what is your lawyer who's, what's his name
your
again?
Fan, Michael Connett.
So what does he think your chances are of, what are you suing for? You're suing for lifetime. So by the way, who pays for your medicine now? Is it your insurance company?
It's me and my insurance. Oh, so yeah, because my insurance covers most of it, right? It's still expensive. So we had to refinance our house to pay for my medical expenses because AstraZeneca was off, Anyway, it's been really bad, really bad.
So that's what you're suing for. Are you suing for your medical expenses, or are you also able to sue for, pain and suffering?
So in contract law specifically, there is a clause that if the person if their violation of the contract results in undue harm and suffering, then you can go after them for additional damages. So,
And
but
so,
the lawyers that I have, they don't just file lawsuits for fun. They only file lawsuits that have a very, very strong reason that it's going to go somewhere. So,
okay. And so, well, when did you file?
Monday,
Monday.
48 hours ago.
Okay.
Wow.
And so now the game is that the lawyers for the big pharma have endless amounts of money, and they're going to try and drag this out for probably at least 10 years, if not longer. And,
Yeah.
but, you know,
Hopefully I'm alive to see it, you know?
yes.
I mean,
and so did you have, when you got vaccine injured, did you have, did what happened to your social circle? Did people believe you? Did they not believe you? Did people treat you like a pariah? Were they sympathetic? What happened?
So this is interesting because when I first got ill, I was so sick I couldn't talk to people about it. I was just trying to survive literally every single day. So nobody knew. The parents of the kids that I taught in my preschool, they didn't even know, right? There was a select group of people in my community, in my neighborhood that, you know, would come and take my kids every day, you know, to literally keep them alive because they were tiny. They knew, and that was it. So people knew who I was before. They all believed me. But I definitely, when I went public, I lost friends. I lost several people in my community, you know, and you understand, because if you're dealing with a chronic illness, you know, and it's a new disease and you're afraid and you just need your community, you need someone that can reach out and use their knowledge, their connections to help figure this out so you can get your life back. And then to just, for whatever reason, people haphazardly shut that door, you know, and never talk to you again. Yeah, it stings, but I'm sure you're probably like me, where at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, they were not my people.
That's correct.
They were hanging out for the wrong reasons, and my life is so much better without them.
Yes, that's how I feel. Yes. It was interesting to me that even people who believed me that I was vaccine injured, they still wanted me to shut up because they were still under the impression that the vaccine worked the way they said it would, that it would end the pandemic and it would stop transmission and contraction of the virus and it would protect everybody. That's what they thought. And so even though it was injuring me, they wanted me to shut up about it because they thought, they were afraid it would make other people hesitant to get their vaccine, and then we'd never get out of the pandemic. Well, guess what? The coronavirus is never going away. And I knew that in early 2021 because I talked to Dr. Robert Malone. Now, no other, and so did Joe Rogan, but nobody else would. Nobody, again, Anderson Cooper, Chris Cuomo, Chris Hayes, Rachel Maddow, and none of those people would interview anybody who had a contradictory point of view or different information. And that's not how science works, right? Science is a method. People go, trust the science. Science is a method to finding out the truth. Science isn't the truth, right? You always question science. You never stop questioning. But they made people ashamed to question that. If you question it, somehow now you were a dummy. It was the exact opposite of how real life works. That you're supposed to always question things, especially science. That's how science moves forward, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, like I said before, my husband's a scientist. Science is to be tested, and it's to be tested again and again and again. And if we're going to restructure everybody, which is what they tried to do, get everybody to think that science is a religion, that it should just be blindly trusted, we've got serious problems. If we want to be the leading country in the world in the realm of research, we need to follow the science as it should be, as in test it over and over and over, be open enough to examine all of the possibilities. If we're going to be running a politicized, very narrow angle of science, we're going to end up like Russia in the 90s. You know, it's like, come on, we have some of the brightest and best minds in the world in this country, and I only know this because I've been seeped in this with my husband's community for a long time, give those educated nerds the ability to do what they can do and make incredible discoveries, advance medicine in ways that we're all depending on at this point because we're all sick, right? Stop. We've got to get politics out of the research communities, and we've got to get politics out of the doctor's office. Those things, but unfortunately, I don't see either of those happening anytime soon.
Well, according to the CDC and the FDA and the WHO, what happened to you and what happened to me is very rare, and that the vaccines are still considered safe and effective, and they don't stop the transmission or contraction of the virus, but they certainly slow it, and they'll keep you from getting seriously ill, hospitalized, or dead. That's according to the CDC and the FDA.
Oh, good. I was going to say, tell her that because I didn't like this talk she was doing.
Yeah, I don't like her talk either. The way she got a smart mouth, and I don't know if you've talked to anybody over at the FDA or CDC, but they will let you know that what happened to you is rare. And
it might be Brazil.
Even though
terrorist, she's a terrorist.
Even though they had to change it. Go ahead.
I've been called that. I'm sure you have.
Oh, come on.
Oh.
I'm getting sick of all my not even that good of jokes that I casually toss aside becoming real things before my eyes.
That's right.
Oh, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. The hate is intense. I don't blame people just to mention. I do not blame people at all who are injured that don't speak out because
not injured. I mismeant
repercussions.
No,
yeah.
I've had
the
people.
Repercussions are so bad when you speak out.
You
got to be better.
I've had people in media as soon as I started speaking out about what happened to me. I had people would contact me and say, "Please don't tell my name," but I'm suffering from pericarditis or myocarditis, and that was the most common one that people would tell me. But I had I've had what they call an occipital neuralgia, which is nerve damage, and I went to a neurologist. I had to wait 2 months to see a neurologist who was horrible, and I told him, I said, "Yeah, I have nerve damage and he said, "That's not what it's from." And just like that, without even examining me, he goes, "It's not from the vaccine." As he just said it just like that. I was like, "Oh, this guy." Oh, I knew he was.
Not be.
I knew he was a jamoke because when I walked in, he was wearing a mask, and I had to wear my mask to go see him. And he said, "Are you vaccinated?" And I said, "Yes, I'm double vaccinated." He goes, "Okay, good. Then we can take off our masks." And I knew this guy.
That never made any sense.
Well, if you hadn't been, he would have vaccinated you and then hit a button that went cha-ching, like to mark the next. What was it, like $700 a head?
Yeah, it never made sense that if I was vaccinated, I would need you, and it works. Why would I need someone else to take the vaccine to protect me? That never made sense. Doesn't make sense. But that's how fear works. They just scare people enough that they can say nonsensical things like that, and people will believe it. I went to the pet store yesterday, and there's a lady walking down the aisle with her masks on. And just
you don't think that's fun? It's like you accidentally walked into a Renaissance fair with normal clothes. Yeah. And you're transported to another time. Here's what I do blame. If you got vax injured and you're attacking people still, which I've seen, then I don't let up on you. If you got injured and you're scared to come out, that's one thing.
Yeah.
I know somebody who got some with their eye. It's so crazy what happened. And they're like, "You idiot." They're still mad at people that didn't get it. I'm like, you're an idiot. I mean, you're an idiot if you're doing that.
Well, I saw Conan O'Brien doing an interview with Bill Burr. And Bill Burr, by his opening act, I forget his name, he also shamed me and said you got to trust the science, and just revealing what a moron he was.
Did you feel ashamed?
I did not feel ashamed.
Oh, he didn't shame
I felt
you.
sorry for him and how stupid he was.
He shamed himself, Jimmy.
And now I know why he opens.
Bill Burr, great job, Bill Maher in Israel, though.
He did a great job.
As bad as he was on Mass and Vax, it was that great with Bill Maher.
I'm going to show that video later of Bill Burr on Bill Maher. It was great. Anyway, I saw Conan O'Brien talk about how he got shingles. Now, I remember one of the first times I went on stage in Los Angeles and I did jokes about my vaccine injury. When I came off, there was a very famous female comedian who I won't name. She came over to me and said that she had gotten shingles in her eye and Conan O'Brien said he got the same thing, shingles in his eye. and still he can't make it. He can't put two. It's so funny. He's just, oh boy. And well, should have got your shingles vaccine, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I wish you all the luck in the world. Is there anything else that I forgot to ask you that you want me to ask you?
No, not really. I mean, if there's people out there that are like us, you know, that really are struggling, if they need community, if they need a doctor, also if they need financial support, we do have a financial support program. Please reach out to us. We're here to help people. We are essentially doing the government's job. We would like to not exist. If the government was doing their job and helping these people, then we wouldn't exist. But otherwise, we're here to help. So reach out to us at react19.org. We're 100% volunteer. It's founded by the injured for the injured. And the whole purpose of what we do is to change our negative reactions into positive action.
Great.
So,
great.
What's the name of the group again?
React19.org.
Okay.
React19.org. That's the name of the
Yeah.
group. All right. Well, thanks you for establishing that. Thanks for speaking out. And I'm glad to see you're doing much better, even though you're still suffering and probably have to take treatment for the rest of your life.
Hey, this is a real democracy, right? Where
Yeah.
if you got injured by a mandatory experimental thing, you have to go underground like the goddamn 18. That means we have a real country and a real democracy, right?
Right. Yeah.
That means voting works.
It's alarming. It's very when you get a front row seat to the shit show. Sorry, is that bad?
Yeah.
Like we have the state of the country. It's not good, is it?
It hasn't been
so,
for
yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I talk about how when I tell people I got vaccine injured, people get angry at me. They go, "Yeah, I got the vaccine. I'm fine." That's how they react. So anyway,
Shut up about Father Tom touching you. Shh.
Yeah, well,
He's a good man. What did you do to get injured?
I went through. Yes, that's a very good analogy, Kurt. Because I also grew up Catholic, and we had pedophile priests at my parish.
That's normal too, right?
And you weren't allowed to talk about it. We used to call him Happy Hands Holohan. And if you called him Happy Hand, why? Because he was always grabbing you in your private parts and your genitalia, and we called him Happy Hands. And if you got caught calling him Happy Hands, the adults you'd get in trouble.
Yeah.
Not, it didn't make them go, "Hey, why are all the kids calling?"
Also,
the
if you got
priest?"
molested, you get in trouble.
Yeah,
That was your fault.
It's your fault. And priests need our
Exactly
prayers more
what's
than
going on
anybody.
now.
As does Pfizer.
Yes. All right. Brianne Dressen, I really appreciate. Good to talk to you. Please keep us updated on your case and say hi to your lawyer for us.
Oh, he's going to be thrilled that I got to talk to you.
Okay.
So, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey, we're doing stand-up in Ashland, Virginia, Athens, Georgia, Rutherford, New Jersey, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Ontario, California, Irvine, California, Las Vegas, Davenport, Iowa, Chicago, Grand Rapids. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com and don't go to a second reseller. Not good.